This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
I want to discuss a halachic subject which is relevant to the summer, and it's something that people want to know about, especially during this time of the year, and that is the topic of lihish tazef b'chama b'Shabbos. Sun tanning, sunbathing on Shabbos. Now, why somebody would want to do it, I really don't know. Why somebody would want to intentionally dehydrate and destroy the healthy skin cells that they have, I don't know, but there are people who like to do that. So the question is, are you allowed to intentionally sit outside for the purpose of darkening the color of one's skin? You say, well, what in the world could be the issue with sunbathing on Shabbos besides Bittul Torah? Well,
and
it's all the time.
Forget about Shabbos. It's all the time.
Yeah, okay. So a person will say, I'll put on the appropriate lotions and the UVF protection and all that stuff. But what about the issue of, is there any potential issue of tanning? Well, the Gemara says in Masechta Shabbos that we all know one of the malachos, one of the lamites malachos is tzviya, dyeing. Not, it's never good to dye and go to the next world. We're talking about a different kind of dyeing, and that is coloring. Where in the Mishkan, they would have dyes from various plants and herbs, and they would soak the wool or the various materials in it until it would absorb and catch. And that was tzviya da'iraisa. What about coloring on the human body? Is there an issue of tzviya? The Gemara says in Shabbos, on Daf Tzadikei, V'chein hoya Reb Shimon ben Elazar oimer, mishum Rabbi Elazar, Isha loisavir srak al paneha, a woman should not put makeup on her face, Mimnei shetzayvas, because she's dyeing it. She's coloring her face. And the Shulchan Aruch brings this down l'halacha. Asar li'isha shetaver b'Shabbos srak al panea mishum tzayveya. Tzayveya. Mitam zeh. So she can't put on her lipstick, her makeup, her eyeshadow, all that stuff. Right? I hope everybody knows a woman cannot put on makeup on Shabbos. Mitam zeh asura l'chol b'Shabbos. She can't do eyeliner on Shabbos. This was apparently another procedure. Some women, they like to look as if their cheeks are red. So what they would do is they would take dough, stick it to their face, and then rip it off. And that would create a more ruddy appearance. She can't do that. When she takes it off, it creates a ruddy complexion. These are all things that a woman cannot do. So, what are exactly these things? The Mishnah Berurah says, what is srak? Srak is hutseva edaim. It is a red dye. What? Right. Adam. Uvetosefta isa shelo tikaneach paneh bebeged sheyesh bosak. She shouldn't wipe her face with a cloth that has this makeup. Umashma afagav dolay miskavenes l'tzviya. Even if that's not her intention, psik reishahu. The tam hadavar, what's the reason? Kimin the isha darka bakach, since it's usual for a woman to do this, liyapo isasatzma, to beautify herself, ayidei tzvias panim, by coloring her face, mechsi shaper kitzayveya. It looks like tzayveya. Clearly, we're not dealing with an issa d'oraisa. Right? In other words, it's only because it's normal for a woman to color her face, it looks like tzaveh. No man is coming into shul with a extra ruddy complexion because it makes him look better. And if he does, then I could give them a number. Loi mikri tzaveh. That's not called tzaveh. Kamashikos of shenches. Shinchav demuter lechal tusim mishar peres hatzovim. You're allowed to eat certain fruits that make your complexion red. Afagav the tzovei upon aviyada ve'isa achila. If some people have rosacea, so certain fruits, you're allowed to do that. He says in Mishnah Berurah, mikol makom afilu ha'avara srak al pnei ha'isha. even if a woman does put on makeup, gam kein eina ela d'Rabbanan. Why? The ein svia midaraisa al or ha'adam. There's no biblical dyeing on a person's skin. So the whole issue of coloring on one's skin is not a daraisa, is a d'Rabbanan. So the shaila is, what about sunbathing? So there's a tshuva here from Shabbos Tshuvas Minchas Yitzchak, Dayan Weiss, who has a problem with sunbathing. And that is, it's the same issue of putting dough on a woman's skin to create a ruddy complexion. He feels this is full-fledged tzviyah. Obviously it would not be dairaisa because there's no dairaisa tzviyah on a person's skin. But the Minchas Yitzchak says, Aladayin nishar lanu, he's discussing a different issue. Ma da'oisin kein af shaloi l'refu ela liyapois. To sit in the sun for beauty. Why do people sit in the sun? Because many people think they look better, or they're trying to get a certain look. Says the Minchas Yitzchak, Aval be'emes gam ze einoi. It's not permitted liyapois, the hagufa asr, it's prohibited. Look in Siman Shin Gimel, Havar Asrak Al Panea, that if a woman puts on makeup, Iko Mishum Tzoiveya. Umitamze Asura Latuach Al Panei Batsek. She can't put the dough on her face. Dichshenoit Lasai Madim Abasar. And it comes from a Gemara on Daf Sadi Dalit Sadikei. And the Yushalmi says, Hada Itza de Sharka Apa, Chayevs Mishum Alabin. I am becoming Eidersham. Mamashna dafim oisel lavan besara asura. V'harbe inyanim matzinu da'asam misham tikun agaver. There are many things you can't do because it fixes a person. Ubinyan either daraisa d'Rabbanan, even if it's only mechsi, like tefillah. V'imkein, he says at the end, bevadei gam adim aniach atzmai k'neged hashemesh. When you kick back and lie down on that recliner or sit in the hammock with your face in the sun, then this is a problem of tzviyah.
What about vitamin D? The sun gives you vitamin D, and people should be out in the sun a little bit. You can't sit inside all the time.
You have to do it on Shabbos.
Huh.
So you're saying to do it l'refuah?
Yeah.
Anyone to do it l'refuah?
But as I see that, you have to do it on Shabbos.
You don't need 4 hours.
Sunday
Well, not
to Friday.
I'm going to get to that. L'chara, that even he would say is okay. Why? Because
No one sits
Any-
in the sun for that.
there are people.
Vitamin D pill.
Some
No.
guy sits every Shabbos for
Yeah,
4
to get a
hours.
sunburn.
No,
not
suntan. Suntan.
No,
There are people, older people, they say to sit outside. I would say like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get
We're going to see.
Not to get a
No,
sunburn.
I'll say like this.
Oh, you will.
L'refuah, let's say a person has a sore throat.
That's something.
Yeah? And they want to drink tea. But you're not allowed to take medicine on Shabbos. The answer is anything that a healthy person would do, you're allowed to do even if you're doing a l'refuah. Because it's not nicker you're doing l'refuah. So somebody sits outside because the doctor says he has severe vitamin D deficiency. It doesn't necessarily look like he's doing it for medicinal purposes. Sometimes, many people enjoy being outdoors sometimes, right? But here we're talking about the recliner for a 5 hour, or whatever it is, a 45 minutes sitting in the derech, or to do it to get the tan, however long it's necessary. So that he has a problem with of tzviyah. Now we'll see, what about somebody who sits outside? He's not doing it for a suntan, but he will get a suntan. Is that also a problem? But
There's no intent there. It's just
so let's see.
you're walking to shul, and you have to take a long walk to shul. You may get a suntan. Because
Okay, so davar she'ena miskavein is not always permitted.
Where's the door? I'm sorry.
Something that you don't intend
It's not permitted.
is not always permitted.
So then I can't walk to shul if I'm walking in an easterly direction in the morning.
I didn't say you can't, but I said we're going to discuss it.
You get the tan.
Maybe you should wear a mask. No, we'll see. We're going to get to that.
According to
Again, this is the opinion of the Minchas Yitzchak. I'm reading to you the opinion of the Minchas Yitzchak.
You see what he got?
He says the Minchas Yitzchak, Umadehu eino yosa klum. How can you tell the guy he's over tzviyah? What's he doing exactly? He's coloring with a magic mark on his face. He's not doing it. He's sitting in a chair. He's not doing anything.
It's causing it.
Loi matzi lahatera. You can't matter it for that. Dari gam b'toivo b'mikvah. Let's say someone goes to the mikvah. Eino oiser rak masha hulach litzval. He's just going in water. You're allowed to go in water on Shabbos. Elamai, going in water is effectuating a new status. So even though you're not doing the new status, you're doing that which brings to it, so too, K'may Kein Hacha, Ma'adam Eniach Atzma Keneged HaShemesh, that's the Maisa. Okay, now there's a book, well-known book on Hilchos Shabbos, the Lamites Malachos book, Rabbi David Ribiat. So he wants to know, why can't you matter sunbathing for a different reason, and that is, it's a grama. You're coloring yourself, or you're being goyreim. You're indirectly causing that your skin should be colored. L'char, it's a grama. But he says you can't matter it because of grama. Because the entire malacha of tzviya is a grama. You never... What is classic tzviya? Look, he writes in a footnote at the end of a sefer, look at number 5. He says, L'chara, lo shayach lahater mishum grama, b'tzavea kahai gavna. But why? The ikar malachas tzavea nasis b'kach. This is how you die. The shriyas beged be'ein seva, when you soak a garment in the color, have a malacha d'oraisa, afagav shekolu masa miyad b'shas nesisa beged. How do you color? You take the garment and you put it in. At that moment, what happened? Nothing. It needs to stay there for 10 minutes, and that's when Yeah, but so what did I do exactly? I caused that. Yeah, that's the malacha. The malacha is to put it in the dye in a way that it will absorb. Even though you're sitting there pushing the color particles into the fabric, you just put it there in the beginning. That's the malacha. That's the elav. Lo nigmar ad achar zman. Hachanami. Sunbathing, you can make the case as asur, even though the tzviya comes from the chama afterwards.
Is there a difference between the fact that dyeing is usually intended to be permanent and the suntan is temporary?
So you say maybe suntan. Look, it's not a permanent thing,
right.
But neither is a woman's makeup. It's coming off at night. Neither is when she puts the dough on her face and she goes like that. She's only going to look red when she comes to shul. But still, now Rabbi Ribiat says, what about a guy? He has a 20-minute walk to shul, and he's going to get a suntan.
That's it.
He says that's not a problem.
He heard you.
Look at number 5.
No more going to shul.
Look at number 5. You're only chayav if you want the dye. So you say, I want the tan. I'm not trying to get a suntan, but once I'm walking to shul 20 minutes, I might as well get something out of it. I might as well let people think I went to Florida or something.
It's a collateral benefit.
He says, no, mistaber, it's okay. I heard this from Poiskim. I don't know. To me, it seems a little bit difficult to say that you can't sit out in the sun even to sunbathe. Again, don't accuse me of being I'm not encouraging anyone to waste their Shabbos afternoon and to waste time, and no way do I think it's a worthwhile activity. But to say that it's an Isser of Tzviya, he brings down another opinion here. He says he heard in the name of one of the Gedolei HaPoskim of our generation, I guess he doesn't want to say who it is, that there's no Isser. Why? When you sit out there after the first minute, do you look different? No. After the second minute, do you look different? No. After the third minute, you look no. After the 15th minute, you look different? Not really, but it's not detectable. So exactly, what are you doing after sitting there for 45 minutes? Is at any moment is anything nicker? Nothing that's nicker la'ayin. He says like this. First of all, it doesn't happen immediately. V'gam she'eino kederach tzviya. It's not the normal way. Even though you can make the case when it's not the normal, that's the normal way for people to color their skin.
That's the normal way to get sunburned.
Also, it's...
But sunburn is not the issue. You're trying to learn it from someone else.
In other words, in order to matter it, you have to make a clear distinction between taking a fabric and sticking it in dye and taking a suntan.
The intent is the same.
I think if you take a white garment and you stick it in dye, is it absorbed in the garment?
Or...
Well, what would the halacha be if you stick a garment in dye and you take it out right away? Is that tzviya d'Rabbanan?
No, some would stick.
You think a nice amount would say it's got to be something. Because something does happen immediately.
It takes a split second for me to dye my shirt with a drop of coffee.
So,
You kids, it goes very quick.
Yeah, maybe over if it was in the cold.
Okay, right. I'm not talking about whether this is in the spirit of Shabbos or this recommended activity, but it would seem intuitively that there may be a distinction between that and again, the Minchas Yitzchak says it's asur. He brings down others say it's mutter. The case to be made why it would be mutter is nothing is really happening immediately, and you can make the case nothing's happening at any interval. Nothing of significance is happening really at any moment. It's sort of the accumulative effect of being in the sun long enough.
It's so gradual that you don't see it.
Yeah. He brings down over here about, look at number 6. L'chayra, the Shmir Shabbos Kol Chasa also seems to be saying like this. He's talking about a different situation. He says, "Ve'ein b'zeh mishum isur tzviya." Look at number 6. Mekivin she'adam atzmai ein atzaveh. You're not doing anything. V'udum yad adam sheyoshev b'shemesh u'mishtazef. V'gam ein l'tzeva hazeh kol kiyum. Once, another thing. The moment you go back into the shade, you turn back to your regular color. Is that true? No. Now I wonder if it's similar. Say some people, they sit in the sun, they get freckles. Right?
He's probably talking a very short sitting as opposed to 4 hours in the sun.
4 hours, so you look like a roasted potato.
That's what I'm saying. So it's not going to disappear. If you sit 10 minutes, you probably don't get enough that it makes any difference.
It's hard to imagine anybody would say you can't sit in the sun for 10 minutes. Okay, we'll do one last thing. Maybe you'll explain to me exactly what this procedure is. Apparently, we're at number 7.
What if you have Kiddush outside? Now I can't sit in the sun?
Now again, if you just halach kedarka, that's okay.
You're going to sit for a half hour.
Okay, but you're not trying.
So wear glasses, wear a hat.
Okay, Rabbi said last case is, let's say a person is a diabetic, they need to check their urine for blood or sugar. Now obviously if it's something of pikuach nefashos, there's nothing to talk about. Obviously you do what you got to do. But apparently the test works. I don't think I ever saw this. Is you stick some kind of chip or thing into the urine, and if there's blood, this material absorbs the blood, and you're able to see.
Changes color.
Changes color. I don't know if we're talking about an indicator. We're talking about something where the blood is. Look at number 7. Mutter livdaik shesen. This is the Shmir Shabbos Kol Chasra.
He's a modern poisek, so he
look how it. Mutter livdaik shesen shel chayla b'minei kismim miuchadim l'kach asher be'ezrasam nitten lahaker imein b'shesen akavas dam oy sukkar or chadama if there's blood or sugar. Aval ein l'shtamish l'tzarech b'dika zu b'kadur ha'miuchal l'kach. Don't use a chemical maybe it's a shesen l'rasicha if it's going to cause it to boil. So he allows the use of this agent to see the color of the blood or sugar. Others challenges unless it's life-threatening. But he brings down his ikar dea is that it's permitted. So what's the reason? So number 8 he says, it's not a violation of dying. Why? Because if you don't want it, if you don't want it and nobody wants it, there's no problem.
You do want it.
No, you don't want it to change color.
You don't want to change it.
No.
Put in the
But yeah, you do. You want, but if there's blood, you want to see the color.
You want it.
You don't.
You're hoping it doesn't.
You're hoping it doesn't. But if there is blood, that's what you're doing it for that reason. But he says. But then he brings down that's why is a woman who is a nida, she's allowed to do zayin bedikim on Shabbos. Her zayin, she's allowed to do a bedika. She could do an internal examination on Shabbos, even though it could be she's going to get blood on the cloth and she's going to stain the cloth. Why? Because she doesn't want it. What do you mean she doesn't want it? Yeah, but if there's blood, she needs to be able to see. So look what he writes on the bottom. Shamati me'agon Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Shlita Deshani me'hadol el ha'ara pei aleph. Rav Shlomo Zalman says this case is different. Why? Sheroitzim rakirosim yesh dam oiloi.
Just by the woman.
By a woman, she wants to see is there blood or not. She can't take the blood out with her finger, so she does it through the badika cloth. Kedei ladas al yidam yesh dam oiloi. Mashingim hacha. Hareim unyanim lirois. They are very interested. The color change. So maybe that's tzoveya. Says of Shomazam, it could be the kimin she'in roitzim klal b'tzviyas hakisim. I care whether this little stick is blue, green, or red. Like I care what color it is. I only care because it's an indicator. I don't inherently care about the color. Oh, I love the appearance of red chips in sitting in meiraglayim. It's nice. It's a nice look. No, you only care about it as an indicator. Ein zeh doime klal litzviya shahoisa b'mishkan. Okay, so Rabbi said the malacha of tzviya is a little bit. It's hard to pin down exactly where the prohibition applies. So just be aware that sun tanning is the subject of halachic discussion, and you should ask your own personal Orthodox rabbi. Shkaya.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.